Hello and welcome to this week's episode of History Behind the Page, the live series where you get to know about the people behind your favorite history pages, the persons, and all things history. Today we have Scott Gibson on. He is a fellow history lover and actor, and most of you know him as playing Captain Andrew Ack Ack Haldane in HBO's miniseries The Pacific. We're going to talk about a little bit of time on the Pacific as well as a little bit of Canadian history too as well. So this is a live Q&A, so you are more than welcome to ask questions. I just ask you, on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little question mark bubble. Go ahead and submit your questions there, because if you do it in the comments, sometimes they get lost, and I want to make sure that we're able to answer as many questions as we can. So I'm going to go ahead and get Scott on here, and we'll get the ball rolling on this beautiful Saturday. Oh, wait, why is it not working? Oh, Instagram. Accept. Hey.
Am I upside down?
You're sideways.
What the fuck? I'm not tech. I'm an actor. I'm not a technician.
Wait a minute. Okay, now you're up. Now you're completely upside down.
How's that?
There you go. That looks much better.
Try to get that, like, I'll have to crouch down or something. You know, I need a camera person here.
A camera person. We'll hire you a professional camera person for your lives.
You can't, like, getting Instagram on iPad is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like the full version of it.
Oh. There you are. How are you?
I'll just look at you.
What?
I feel like I'm so weird here. Okay, I'll just stand back. I'm standing, actually. I do the podcast standing because, you know, it gives me more energy.
Good for your legs. Good for your legs.
Yeah, and I got my Marine Corps coffee mug.
Nice. Nice hat.
Freddie Joe. I'm sponsoring all my friends' companies here.
I know. Look at you. You're such a good friend.
The Devil Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The shirt from the 506 group there.
Nice.
I don't get any commission though, Sarah.
Well, you need to get on that and get it fixed.
I know. I need an agent for that stuff. Really, is what it is.
You're an actor. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's what they tell me.
That is what they tell you.
That's what they tell me when I show up on set. Just like, hey, you're acting today. Really? Okay.
Oh, shocking. Weird. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's what I got hired for.
Do you have a coffee? Do you have a coffee going?
I have my Dutch Brothers.
What's your poison there?
Coconut caramel latte with oat milk. I'm basic. I'm super basic.
That goes beyond that. I think that goes beyond basic.
Eh.
We quibble.
Yes. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, my pleasure. It's actually kind of a chilly day here. We have a cold wind. April really kind of sucked. It's just been like, basically I still have heat going on the furnace.
Yeah. I feel like Canada and Oregon have a lot of the same weather. It's overcast. It's not overcast. It's dark clouds, and it's going to rain today. And I've had my heat on too ever since probably like October of last year. So
You get weather like Vancouver?
yes.
Yeah.
Lots of rain, lots of seasonal depression, and lots of more rain. So
I did a winter in Vancouver. I was filming something, stuck around, and it's like, oh, I'll stay for the winter. And then because we get a lot of snow here, it's very cold, get like deep cold kind of thing. But Vancouver, you got this drizzly rain.
Mm-hmm. That's Oregon.
For 2 weeks, and I was just like, my God, I'm going to drink myself to death. This is like fucking insane.
It's sad weather. It's definitely sad weather. So
takes a little getting used to, but beautiful city, beautiful place.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So, well.
All right. See you later. Great to see you.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Thanks for everything.
Oh man.
What do you need to know? What's going on?
Well, let's just jump in with some questions. With my questions, their questions, these predisposed questions that I have, because I like to be prepared.
Yeah,
Um,
good call.
I know it is a very good call. So, prior to your time in the Pacific, have you always had a thing for history, or did that happen after the Pacific?
Always. I mean, I took it in university. You know,
Mm-hmm.
both grandfathers in the war, um, one in the Navy that was highly decorated. You know, watching war movies as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably got the acting bug then. I remember watching The Great Escape, Steve McQueen.
Good movie.
Yeah, great cast. Although
Mm-hmm.
James Coburn played a Canadian, but he had a fucking like Australian accent.
Oh,
It's
casting.
ridiculous. But the Canadians favored very heavily in that escape. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
tunnel diggers were Canadian.
Yeah,
Bet you didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
There you go. I've got a ton of facts like that. I just have facts. I can't verify them right here and now. But anyway, no,
Mm-hmm.
the book is really good. So yeah, and I'd watch. There's riveted by all the different war movies I saw and westerns as well. And I remember as a kid acting them out. You know, like getting in a fight or something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm like 7 getting in a bar fight, and so I'm in the dining room like and I'm flying over the couch, and then I'd always get the girl in the end.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, but and
Of course.
this is I'm giving too much away here, but I take the pillow from the couch, and just like, oh baby, I won you, that kind of thing. So
Amen.
yeah, whatever it takes,
Yeah.
start early. But yeah, always, and then reading up on my grandfather and following up with history classes, and Canada was, you don't see a lot of war movies with Canadians in them.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if, like back in the day, a great movie, I don't know if you've seen, is The Devil's Brigade.
I haven't seen it. Oh,
William Holden stars in that.
I love William Holden.
Claude Akins. Yeah, it was great. So true story based on it was like the first special service force combined Canadian American. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially the setup is that they take the best of the best Canadians from the Canadian Army, and
Mm-hmm.
and then they raid all the like stockades and prisons of all the like worst American guys and put them together and create this elite unit. So I don't know how necessarily true that is, but it was
Mm-hmm.
first Special Services Force, and they were in the Italian campaign,
Mm-hmm.
and they were doing a recon. Their first mission was a recon, but they turned it into capturing the whole city.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I guess the colonel kind of got shit for that, but basically one of the German soldiers, I think it was an officer, gave them the name El Deutschen Brigade, the Devil's Brigade.
Mm-hmm. The Devil's Brigade.
The Devil's Brigade. Great movie. Great. Love that movie.
Well,
Love.
the Canadians in World War II, they were mostly in Italy the whole time, fighting.
Early on, yeah.
Early on, yeah, because they entered the war in 1939. They didn't declare war on Italy until the 40s, but until 1940. But they, yeah, they were in the war obviously longer than the Americans, because they fought along with the British too as well. Because
Yeah. And,
yeah,
they were at Dunkirk. There was a
mm-hmm.
raid at Dieppe early
Mm-hmm.
on. It was 42. That was sort of a precursor. It's like, let's see what happens. We can take this port, and if we can hold it, and then that would be the precursor. Okay, figure out what we have to do for a massive invasion.
Yeah,
But they got fucking smoked. Like,
yeah.
I mean, 6,000 casualties, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of prisoners taken, and the Luftwaffe just decimated them. And there is a reference to that actually in Devil's Brigade, because one of the Canadians, who's played by a British actor,
Mm-hmm.
he mentions Dieppe or Dunkirk, I think, and basically his next line is like, "Yeah, well, I'm out for revenge,"
Mm-hmm.
and old Jerry, fucking
And I'll,
pound, fucking Jerry.
I mean, the Canadians were a big fighting force during World War II, but not a lot of people talk about. Everybody talks about the British and the Americans, because obviously we were you know, bigger, but the Canadians suffered a lot of casualties and a lot of messed up stuff during World War II. After the D-Day landings, there was the Normandy massacre. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But 156 prisoners, Canadian prisoners of war, were massacred by the 12th SS Panzer Division. Yeah, and if you ever want to watch something related to that, JD from the History Underground actually visited the site where the massacre took place and does a whole video on it, and it left me speechless because I didn't know that actually happened.
Oh, very cool.
You know, yeah. So, yeah,
they did.
Canadians.
I mean, like D-Day on Juno Beach, they had about 360 killed, but their mission was to take the ports.
Yeah.
Go up through Belgium and the Netherlands, and which was a really tough mission. They actually advanced further that day than anybody else.
I was just going to say that they covered the most ground.
Yeah,
but then they suffered a lot of casualties though in doing that. But
yeah,
it's we don't hear.
No, we're hard ass people, but very humble.
Yes, hard ass when you need to be, but always humble.
But this goes back, because I mentioned that book to Pierre Burton's book on Vimy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is. It's not holding this up. He fought in the Second World War. Mm-hmm. He's a writer. He's actually got a show, or he had a show, an interview show. Check out on YouTube. He does this amazing interview with Bruce Lee very, very early on. So he wrote this book. And Vimy was World War I. That the British and French had tried to take this part. It was the most well-defended part of the Western Front by the Germans. And it was the first time the Canadians were basically in command of their own battle. So all four Canadian divisions were together for the first time. And what took the French and British months and or years to not take, the Canadians were able to take it in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
But part of that reason, which is really interesting in the book, he says, so the British could go home. They could go back home on leave. The French could go home on leave. The Canadians couldn't. So there was this sentiment around with the Canadians that, look, this is our turn. Let's fucking get this over with.
Yeah.
You know, as quickly as possible. And they had this creeping barrage. Like there was like 6,000 meters of the front line and this creeping barrage. And they were able to push the Germans back so far, so fast that they probably would have been able to make the Germans surrender that early in 1917, but they weren't able to. They weren't able to get all their guns because it was so muddy that by the time their artillery, which was British artillery, I think at that point, the Germans had already escaped, you know, far enough and you know, sort of recompose and everything. So it's a wonderful book. It was to sort of put, I think Canada had about 8 million people at that time in World War I. So it was like this real nation building moment of pride. They actually got to sign the Treaty of Versailles, you know, as their own nation, not part of the Commonwealth. Yeah. And he told one story about a guy, he's going back on leave, just, you know, whatever French town. And this major at the front, because the tunnel systems underneath Vimy were incredible on both sides, right? So he's up at the front and he's on leave, and this guy goes, hey, the major wants you to pick up these papers at the command post in the back, and while you're at it, he'd like a bottle of scotch. So he's telling them this in the bunker, like right front line thing, and the guy's like, oh, fuck, great. Because it was a little bit dangerous to go through all these tunnels and trenches and back, right? So he goes back, he gets the papers, and he knew he was just getting this guy a bottle of scotch. So he makes it all the way back, gets to the post, you know, where the officer is, and he gives him his scotch. So, all right, thank you very much. And then he leaves. But as he's leaving the trench, someone taps him, and the Germans had stuck a piece of paper on a bayonet, and it said, glad to hear the major got his scotch. Because they could hear everything that was going on, and they'd send little notes like that back and forth. So anyway, that's one little story from there, but that's a wonderful book if anyone's interested. So yeah, that and similarly, Second World War, the Canadians just, you know, obviously smaller, and we didn't have the firepower, but very, very big in the Battle of the Atlantic, and fighting in Italy, and just all around humble ass kickers.
Yeah, I mean, there was less that served in World War II than World War One. There was only like 1 point. I could be getting. I'm so bad with numbers. I think it's like 1.1 million Canadians served, and I think 55,000 died out of that 1.1 million. So, I mean, that's a huge.
You're like a great uncle that served.
So World War
No.
One. So my great grandfather and my great uncle served in World War One on the Canadian side. My mother's side of the family, they're Canadian. They're from Canada. Yes. So my great uncle actually was a prisoner of war during World War One. He got captured at the Second Battle of Ypres, and was captured by the Germans. And my great grandfather ended up joining World War One because they got the letter saying that his brother was missing in action, and they don't know what happened to him. So my great grandfather joined the war to find his brother, and so that's how my family got, on my maternal side, got into World War One. So, and then my great uncle didn't get released until like May of 1918, I think it was, when he got released. I'm just now getting into the whole like family tree type of thing. So
the Canadians sort of invented the raiding a pillbox, raiding a machine gun nest kind of thing.
Because, oh yeah.
Similarly, and Burton talks about this, that they're just sitting around like, fuck, it's night, Jerry's probably asleep. Let's go fucking just, murder the bastard, get the gun, and he won't be shooting at us in the morning, kind of thing. Now, I don't quote me on that, but
yeah,
what they said, but they did. They were kind of the first to do that. So
just getting stuff done.
Get it done, Canadian style.
Get it done. Yeah.
And then we apologize for it afterwards. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry.
Sorry, I murdered all your friends.
Yes. My sincerest apologies.
Yeah,
so you said your grandfather served.
Both did, yeah. One was in the Air Force. He wanted to be a flyer, but he didn't. His eyesight wasn't good enough. He joined the Air. He was actually so this is my dad's father, and he was a very good athlete, and he was especially good at hockey. Surprise! Figure hockey.
Shocking,
and raiding trenches. So he was recruited by the Air Force because he could have actually played in the NHL. He was scouted and is one of the best goalies at the time. The Air Force had a really good hockey team, and you got paid. So there was no money in the NHL at that time. So he joined the Air Force, and then he ended up being more like a rear echelon man in I think dealing with vehicles and maintenance and in charge of that. So he spent a bunch of time in Canada, a little bit in England. And then my mom's father, he was Royal Canadian Navy Reserve. He was in the RCMP Marine Division before that, chasing rum runners. Fucking Capone's bastards, stealing our rum. Give us yeah, we wanted our rum.
Yeah.
So Second World War comes along, and so Canadian Navy takes over the Marine Division under the command of the Brits, and so he was in the Battle of Atlantic all 6 years. Captained 6 or 8 different ships, and he sunk 2 subs.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I have I couldn't find the transcript. Actually, here he is. I got a picture. This feels like show and tell.
I like it. I know.
So there he is.
Oh, cool.
Lieutenant Commander James Fraser. That was the night. That was the morning after he sunk the sub. So he's looking a little salty and probably hadn't had his rum yet. But
yeah,
those convoys going across the Atlantic in the early part of the war. I mean, you'd lose. Say if you had like 21 ships, you'd be lucky to get there with half.
Yeah.
Or even a third. The subs were just picking them off left and right until we got more ships. Anyway, he was on a convoy in the North Atlantic. He's at the tail end, British ship at the front, and his sonar detected something. So radio ahead saying I'm going to follow this. So he does a pass. So the convoy's still going, and he does a pass, set depth charges, nothing comes up, joins the convoy again, radios the lead ship again, saying, oh, you take another crack at this. Lead ship, okay. Does another pass, nothing. Joins the convoy again, and then he wants a third shot. But the lead convoy, the British ship, said, experts agree just porpoise remain in the convoy. And my granddad was like, fuck that. I'm trusting fucking Sonar Joe here. And a lot of these guys that were like radio or sonar in particular were actually musicians. Oh. Because their ears were so tuned for different.
That would make sense, yeah.
Right? And so a porpoise and a sub, like you could actually tell the difference. So maybe the other ship didn't. Anyway, he's like, I'm going to take one more shot at it. So he broke off the convoy, set the depth charges, up came the sub, and they manned the guns on that frigate, the Waskasoo, these Orlikon guns. And I think the shell was about that big. We actually had a lamp made out of one of the shells from it. It was the only remaining piece of the ship.
Oh, anyway, really?
Yeah, the British ship joined in, and I think another ship. So they just pounded the crap out of the sub and sunk it. And he took some prisoners. Whatever, guys. I mean, geez, if you went down in the water in the North Atlantic, you wouldn't last too long, right?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think so.
So he took some prisoners, and then he told this story afterwards. Apparently, you know, he liked his cups, and he'd be telling the story, saying, "Well, the U-boat commander came aboard, and he spat on my deck and said, 'Heil Hitler.' So I got him a mop and made him swab the whole deck."
Is that exactly how he sounded?
that was it that night. Yeah, different in the morning. Yeah. But he, so then I got the transcripts and I was reading them, and all the other ships were like, "Congratulations, way to go," this and that. And so he wrote back to the lead ship, which was the Nene, Nene, because that was the one that said experts agree, just porpoise. And all he wrote back, he wrote back, "How about your experts now?" End of story. And he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for that. Oh. Which is the third highest Commonwealth medal.
Yeah.
Another show and tell. So this is from the Canadian Press News at the time.
Oh, cool.
Frigate sink sub. And so this guy down here, the chief engineer, okay? Listen, didn't even see the U-boat. Listen to this. Frederick James Rennie, BC, you know what? And I have to do glasses for this, but it's a cool read. 48-year-old chief engineer in HMCS Waskasoo broke 2 of his own records when the gallant little frigate knocked out her sub. He won 3 games of solitaire in a row and ate 2 large chocolate bars during the action. "They're both unique feats for me," says the chief. "I guess I must have been excited." Called Popeye by his shipmates, Rennie was sleeping when action station sounded. He bounded out of his bunk and scrambled for the engine room. A quick checkup showed him that it was running like a Swiss watch, so he made his way back to the wardroom and started playing solitaire. He persisted at cards and won 3 games in succession and munched his way through 2 large chocolate bars. "Depth charges were being dropped," says the chief, "but that didn't bother me. Then I heard the forward gun firing, and I knew we were in for trouble. I made for the deck as fast as I could go. On the upper deck, Rennie found the battle in full swing, but never once did the chief spot the sub. They tell me we sank a sub," the chief says, now dolefully, "but I never saw it."
That's a legit news article?
That's a legit from the Canadian Press News, yeah. A week or so after he sunk the sub. I mean, isn't that like stories like that, right? Like these little amazing stories that people, you just don't really think, you know, all the battles and carnage and heroism, etc. and so forth. And then there's the chief there. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm playing cards, man. This shit, it's getting old. Sink that thing. Yeah, I got another chocolate bar and a game to play."
I know. Also, they don't write news articles like that anymore. If they did, I think people would like the news a little bit more nowadays.
And it's a bit golly gee, right? Like
it is. It's
the little frigate.
It's so swell, yeah.
The little frigate, you know. And he was on another convoy in the St. Lawrence, and he was on a minesweeper at the tail end of the convoy, and this sub took out, I think, 5 or 6 ships, and he got it, but the sub didn't come up. So they may have, let out oil to say, hey, you got us, and then they scoot off, kind of thing. But there was someone on the ship that was pretty confident they got it, but he couldn't stop. He had to protect the convoy, thinking that there was a wolf pack in the area. And the other one the one he sunk in the North Atlantic, that U-boat, because the German records are so good, as you know, that U-boat was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was trying to join up with a wolf pack and got lost, kind of thing, and fucking granddad just bagged it.
Yep. Well, shit happens.
Shit happens. He did have, my grandmother said, he had nightmares, for years after the war, and seeing and hearing these teenage German sailors screaming for their mother as they're flailing away, freezing North Atlantic, kind of thing. So
I can't even imagine. PTSD it wasn't a thing back then. Like, it wasn't diagnosed back then. It wasn't thing. But most soldiers that came back from the war had PTSD, or back then they called it shell shock or whatever, and they just thought they'd get over it, after a little bit. But that's not how that's not how this works. So
he never did. He this is you might recognize the lady in the background there. This is him after the war in Halifax. That's the Duke of Edinburgh and Queen Elizabeth. He's shaking hands with in his RCMP outfit there. My mom, I was in Halifax when they were there, I don't know, back in the late 50s or something like that. And my mom said, yeah, Granny was practicing her curtsy for about 2 weeks before she met the Queen.
Well, you got to have a good curtsy to meet the Queen.
You do. This other one was a gathering of Frasers in Cape Breton. That's my mom's maiden name, Fraser. And this gentleman with the kilt is Lord Lovett. He was, I think, the 12th Lord Lovett of the Clan Fraser, and leader of the Lovett Scouts in the Second World War. It was the elite British commando unit. They mainly, like in Italy or something like that, they were the first to use the ghillie suit. Do you know what a ghillie?
Oh yeah, the ghillie suit.
Oh, the camouflage.
Yeah.
And they were an
I
elite.
love that name.
I know. Yeah.
Well, it's just like, you look at it. I know, you look at it and you're like, why is this called a ghillie suit? Because I feel like a ghillie suit would be something super silly, but it's like it's a badass camouflage suit with, a ghillie suit. If anybody knows why it's called a ghillie suit, I actually don't know why. Let us know, because
me neither. But next year for Halloween,
is that
I'm gonna ghillie suit it. I'm gonna ghillie suit it up.
Ghillie suit it up.
But they were very adept at their job in killing Germans, and he was asked, Lord Lovett, Simon Fraser, all the leaders in the clan, elder leaders, their first name is Simon. But the Scots within the clan, they call the leader McShimmy. Anyway, he was asked after the war, it's like, you're particularly good at your job in killing Germans, why was that? And he said, well, when we were going at it with the Germans, we treated them like the English treated the Scots. And he just left it at that.
That was it.
Well, yeah, because Culloden, where the Highland Scots were wiped out by the English, and this was just a few years previous to when the English battled the French for Canada, in that final battle of the Plains of Abraham in Quebec, and the French thought, okay, well, as if they're going to sail up here and then climb these cliffs, kind of thing. But the British had the 78th Fraser Highlanders with them, who could kind of scale any cliff sort of deal. Like, that was their specialty, and they were able to sneak in at night, in the morning, climb up the cliff, surprised the French, won the Battle of the Plains of Abraham, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's how the British ended up with stealing Upper Canada from Indigenous people.
Ah, sneaky,
But
sneaky.
the Frasers, the Scots, apparently agreed to fight with the British because at that Battle of Culloden, the British General Wolfe was actually a lieutenant at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he's walking the battlefield afterward at Culloden, and superior officer, there's a wounded Scotsman, and he told him to kill him, and Wolfe refused, and he told him, kill him, you lose your commission, and Wolfe apparently took his saber off and handed it to him, and then said, well, then I resign.
Yeah.
But he didn't save this guy's life, or at least that's what the Frasers say. I'm sure every clan
Yeah.
says, oh yeah, that was us, but it really was the Frasers.
Mm-hmm.
They agreed to fight with them. And then similarly, the Lovett Scouts in World War II, they actually trained in Canada at Banff
Mm-hmm.
in the snow, learn it like scale those mountains and cliffs, and did part of that same very thing in Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Good thing I had my coffee today. I'm just flying.
I know.
You got to pack it all in, because afterwards, like the others, talked about Pacific, and I'm happy to talk about that and any questions about it. But just having the chance to talk of, Canadian history and background, family history is very nice. So thank you.
No, it's super. Yeah, no, I thank you for sharing all that, because that's a lot of the stuff I didn't know. Again, I don't know that much about Canadian history during the wars, and I feel like I should with my family tree of Canadians, but also it is something that doesn't get talked about. Mostly like I said, the Americans and the British are the ones that get a lot of the glory, the fame and glory, as I like to say. So
you got to come prepared when you're talking to the history chick, right?
Oh yeah.
like you can't show up and just like dribble shit out of your mouth and like, hey, this, you know what I mean? You gotta do some homework.
Well, you can try it, but we can see how that plays out.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna shift. We're getting a lot of questions, so we're gonna shift a little bit here to the Pacific, if that's good with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So, first question: how long was your boot camp?
That's probably someone that knows that asked that, maybe.
Oh, there's going to be a few questions. Yeah. So
boot camp
long? Mm-hmm.
So there were mine was 3 days.
3 days.
And 3 days, and so the fourth day was the final sort of graduation. So you just get up in the morning, you do this exercise. The Freddie and his pals attack you, and you do your best against them. You graduate, and then you go home. So it was the training part of it was 3 days. They had already started filming.
Uh-huh.
So all the lead guys and everyone that was in episode 1, they were there for boot camp like a month and a half ahead of us or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my boot camp, there was John Bernthal, Rami Malek, Martin McCann, Brendan Fletcher, myself, and a whack of background guys for the training. So it was Sarah, I found it kind of weak. I really felt I was overpowering everyone, and it could have been a lot harder. There was some really weak leadership in that. No, that's all bullshit. It was tough. It was a tough 3 days.
What was some of your favorite parts of boot camp?
Jeez. Leaving was my favorite part. Graduating.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
No, it was really cool. I mean, you just, bus shows up in the morning, get on the bus. I think Freddie Joe was on our bus. Freddie Joe Farnsworth. And he got on there and told us how it was going to go. Shut your mouth. This, that, the other thing. And it was about an hour and a half drive. But we were in the jungle. I mean, there was nothing around there. Nobody, no houses, no resorts, nothing. In Australia, in the rainforest. And I had hoped that I wasn't the only officer, but I didn't know. Because I knew if I was the only officer, I'd just, we're going to segregate him and just fucking key on him.
Yeah.
So get out of the bus, but I realized with the other actors that were with me, I was the only officer, and so like, yeah, let's see how this day goes. And the Lieutenant Stokey, he gave a little speech to us, tell us how things were going to go, and he said, "All right, all commissioned officers, everybody else over here, Haldane, you're with me." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I am getting singled out." So I walked out, met him. He said, "You're going to be with us at the CP. I'm going to get someone to put a tent up for you," which I thought was fucking great because I didn't know how to put a tent up. Like, right, yeah, that's right in Captain's prerogative. And then Freddie Joe and Bruce Whitfield, Gunny Whitfield, they were walking towards me, and they had their, I'm sure some other people have heard this story before, but they had their Stetson hats on, smoky hat on there, and then they were just gunning me, eyeballing me, and they're walking up towards me, and I'm like, oh shit. And we're walking away. I'm walking away with the LT, and Freddie gets about 5 feet away from me, and he's just fucking like looking right through me. And he's like, "Going back to your bitch tent, bitch." And he spat tobacco right at my feet. So I did cry a little inside, thinking, okay, this is how it's gonna go. He called me Lieutenant Dick Licker for 3 days. Because you go in to rank underneath what you are in the show. That's how they do the boot camp. But that was my initiation to it, which sticks in my mind. It's emblazoned in my mind. I can't shake that memory. But the training was I mean, you couldn't do something like that without it, really.
Yeah.
And it had, they were hard, but they were fair, unless you were a dick and rolled your eyes or did something stupid. And I don't think, for me personally, you wouldn't respect them if they weren't hard on you.
Yeah. Right?
Like you needed that, and I expected that. And I played a lot of sports growing up. I was used to some guy like in my face, you piece of shit, you suck, kind of thing. They weren't doing that per se, but we did do a run on the second day for PT, like 2 miles, get down, do 2 minutes of push-ups, 2 minutes of sit-ups, get back up, run back. And I was not in shape at all, and a bum knee, and I was just like on the run back, I was fucking dying, and my legs are all cramped up, but I'm supposed to be the lead guy, right? So I'm jogging along, but I'm just getting slower and slower and slower, and as each guy sort of passing, they look at me like, "Should I pass you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck, go." So I ended up being last, except for the guy who was puking beside me. Yeah. And Bruce Whitfield came up to me. Well, he's about 20 yards away. "Haldane, sir." Run up to him. He's like, "Listen, you're the leader here. You're the officer. You're the captain. You got to lead from the front all the time." And he wasn't like screaming at me or anything, but he was very direct. Wasn't messing around, and I appreciated that. And that fed into, how you approach the role and everything like that. So they weren't doing anything just because they wanted to be assholes or anything like that. But couldn't have done it without them, for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like that's huge for character development. You can't really play a captain or somebody in war without getting training like that, because it's like, so this actually, I like this question. So you guys filmed in Uyang, south of Melbourne, which is where actually the 1st Marine Division trained before they went island hopping.
Yeah.
So did that feel like surreal, or was that kind of like a feeling like I'm where the 1st Marine Division was, and I'm on the Pacific? Did you have any like feelings about that?
All of that. I mean, boot camp, you're learning from Marines, real Marines that learn from other Marines, from other Marines, from other Marines, going way back to the beginning of the Marine Corps. So I'm thinking like, this is what Haldane, in OTS, like he had a gunny that, I don't know, maybe called him Dick Licker or something like that, right? Like, yeah. You had that same training, knowing that they were there, trained there, knowing that they were in Melbourne. So after Guadalcanal, they went back to Australia, and they were there for 9 months. 90% of them that were back in Australia had malaria.
Oh, geez.
So, I mean, and that would just sort of come and go on you. So Haldane was about 185. I think he went down to 155. sick, you know, various points of that. But they were there, and they were staying at the cricket grounds, the G, and it was the biggest AWOL in Marine Corps history, and they show that in the series. But
Yeah.
basically, they're all, this is where you're going to stay, and, you know, sleep on benches and tents, and then they're like, hey, fuck, there's no one guarding us.
Yeah.
And there's a pub around the corner.
See ya.
And there's girls.
Exactly.
I'd have been out of, yeah. So they went and just lit that town up. So that was very cool, being there and knowing that he was there. And there's a bar that had a picture of a naked woman. I forget the name of the bar, but a famous painting that's hung in this bar, you know, I don't know, 100 years or something like that. And just sitting there looking at it, thinking, oh, geez, you know, Andy probably was in here looking at this, and he'd give you that kind of connection. So all of that was really surreal. Yeah. When you're filming, you don't really think about any of that stuff because you're filming and you're not.
Yeah, you're concentrating. Right? Yeah.
But everything else that they had us do and built and everything, whenever you looked at the set, it just, you felt like you were in World War II. Like, I mean, you know, it's like, holy fuck, is that real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, so how much research did you do on Andrew, on Haldane?
They sent me a bunch of information about the Pacific War, Marines in the Pacific War. They sent me 15 or 20 of his personal letters that he wrote to the dean of his college at Bowdoin, which is in Massachusetts. And so he wrote these letters to the dean. He was very close with the dean, and also his football coach, Adam Walsh. And he was an all-star football player, fullback, all-star baseball player. He went back, when he graduated, he went back to Bowdoin to help coach football. So these letters, he talked about his men, you know, he's talking about, like I said, his weight, losing that weight at Guadalcanal. He couldn't say anything directly about what he was going to do or what battle, anything like that. But he had a real strong connection with that college, particularly with his football coach. He learned so much from him, and he even speaks about that in a letter, saying, you know, when I'm in a jam or in a situation and I think, well, what would Adam do? My coach, right? He's like, Coach, what would Coach tell me to do? What did I learn? And he took all that into his leadership and basically how he operated on a day-to-day. So to have that was just absolutely invaluable. And he was one, like, fucking strong dude, big dude. Sled mentions a bit of that in the book, but playing football, I remember a guy when I was 14, we were playing this varsity team and these were guys, like farm guys, right? So they were anywhere from like 14 to 18, and I was playing safety, and this fullback broke through the line, made it past the linebackers, and this guy was fucking huge and fast. And I didn't, like, you know, the hammer and the anvil. He was the hammer and I was the anvil. And he put his helmet into me there. Like my shoulder, I still have problems with my shoulder. And that was,
really?
I'm 52, and yeah, that was when I was 14. And he just went through me onto the ground. And guys like that will, like, they'll keep, you're on the ground and they will keep running. Like they're trying to bury you. But I think Haldane was very much like that in terms of how he led and how he fought. So having those letters, I didn't get any of his personal family letters. There is a Marine, Garrett Shatrowski, second lieutenant, U.S. Marine Corps Reserve, still doing exercises, active exercises. He's writing a book on Andy. And put most of it together, like the manuscript together. And he got like a ton of information, obviously, in all these incredible stories and letters. He's going to send me the letters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I didn't have any of that. So basically I had the material on the war, that from Andy, what I had from boot camp, and then just sort of bringing in my own thing to the role.
All right, let's do a question here. If you had the chance to ask Andy Haldane anything, excuse me, if you had the chance to ask Andy Haldane anything, what would you have wanted to ask him? So
the day he died, the feeling is, so when he was at Guadalcanal, his first role. He was in command of a machine gun platoon.
Mm-hmm.
That was his first deal. He did pretty much everything that happened to, you see Barcelona, like Guadalcanal and WW2, Andy would have went through the same thing on Guadalcanal.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to Peleliu, there were 2 battalions left.
Mm-hmm.
2nd Battalion, 3rd Battalion at the very end of it. 3rd Battalion was relieving 2nd Battalion at the very end. He was 3 days away from leaving. And actually his last letter to a friend back home, Garrett Shatrowski, sent me that letter, which is just staggering. And he's reading about, there's some Christian Science book that became this constant companion for him that I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about that. And at the end, he's like, well, I hope to see you at Christmas, cross your fingers, I'll be there and we'll have a beer together.
Mm-hmm.
But they were, when they went to relieve 2nd Battalion, machine guns set up, and they were told there were snipers all around. And I guess I probably know the answer. My question would have been why did you go back? So they set up the machine.
Yeah.
You don't see it in the movie, but he went back a second time
Mm-hmm.
to check on the position of the machine guns and just left his head up a little, too long. And that's exactly what happened. So, but knowing that it's like, that's the type of person he was, he would just,
Mm-hmm.
he had to get it right. He had to leave, didn't want anyone else to do what he knew he could do best. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kills me that he did that.
Did they film any of that in the Pacific that didn't make it? Like, did they film him getting shot or anything, or
No, because
was it intentionally left? Oh, because Sledge didn't
see it.
That makes sense.
So that it's all seen through Sledge's eyes. I mean, so I was in F2, but they cut that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but after the Barcelona and his guys and Lecky, and they all raid the army supplies and take
Mm-hmm.
booze and everything like that. So you see Barcelona run away on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't see is he's got the booze and he's running, and then it's like, colors! So everyone stops. If you're near the flag gets lowered,
Mm-hmm.
Haldane comes out of a bunker. So Barcelona turns around, drops the bag that he has, and it's all booze.
Oh.
So all the bottles clank.
Yeah.
And then he turns and he looks, and there's this officer there, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like this, and I'm like this. And David Nutter directed that episode brilliantly. Such a great director. And so we're just sort of eyeballing each other a bit like that. And then finishes, and I look down at the bag, I look at him, and I just say, carry on, Sergeant. And he's like, oh shit. So
I got it.
that part. And then also at Cape Gloucester, I wish that's where Andy got his Silver Star.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first few weeks, fighting, make it up to this ridge. The ridge was subsequently called Walt's Ridge after Lew Walt. He was the commander of, I believe, 3rd Battalion, or maybe the Red. I don't know. I think it was commander of the 3rd Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, went up on this ridge. Nighttime came, so Andy was there with his platoon, and they were attacked by the Imperial Japanese. So these were the elite Japanese soldiers, all over 6 feet. And it was hand-to-hand combat. And so a written account, Garrett shared this with me from a guy who was there on the line. And this guy looks over and he sees Andy, and he's just got his K-bar and his 45.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being attacked, Japanese, with like bayonet, and he's there just like taking them fucking down. And he took his K-bar through a guy, and the guy goes, and he just flipped him like he was throwing a football.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
So they were up on this ridge, and five times they were attacked like that and survived it. And everyone in the platoon was like, the reason we survived was Andy Haldane.
Yeah.
You don't see any of that in the show. Obviously Sledge wasn't there, but I think they could have incorporated that in, but
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, the how the Japanese would attack during the night was absolutely so probably petrifying, because they would start doing machine gun fire. They would start like playing bugles and all this noise. They had no idea where they were coming from, and so it was just that's ugh, ugh,
it was
can't
fucked
imagine.
up at night. You know, when you're
It's yeah.
because when we were filming, and then you'd see up in the hill there this Japanese guy running, and then so it's.
Yeah.
But even there, when you're filming, you're like, man, that's fucking, that's a
Mm-hmm.
that's a bit unsettling.
Just a tiny bit, just a
But they
tiny bit.
never, yeah, they never let them sleep.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
There
yeah,
was no,
sleep deprivation and on your toes all the time. Yeah.
yeah, they were ferocious, ferocious fighters. Japanese, like R.V. Bergen mentioned that to me when I met him about the Japanese. He said after the war, he learned to forgive the Japanese people, but he would never forgive the Japanese soldier.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, both theaters I couldn't imagine fighting, but I feel like the guys in the Pacific just I don't it's ugh.
Yeah.
Had it I don't want to say a little bit worse, but it's pretty intense. Where did that question go that I just popped up?
If you could get Bruce McKenna on here, I'm sure we have ways to connect with him and get him on, because he was writer for Band of Brothers
Mm-hmm.
and the Pacific, and he can go in quite detail about obviously, how they structured each series. But
Yeah.
he did mention one time, he said if the Pacific was first before Band of Brothers would have been a lot darker and a lot different.
Really?
Well, because there's so much of the Pacific material that you don't see that is so fucking dark and
Mm-hmm.
horrific, and just like TV, like we can't do that. You can't show the guy's balls and someone, cut off and stuff,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
but he really goes into the detail of the difference between the two, and he's really like, look, I know band, yeah, is always going to be more popular and everything like that. He goes, but the Pacific was, it maybe just takes a little bit more of a watch, or watch it a couple times, like.
It does. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they both each one of them has their own value that they bring to it. But the Pacific, it's I forgot what I was gonna say. just I had it and I watched it go right out of my brain, and I was like, oh bye. Like
Is there any? Oh yeah, it happens to me all the time.
yeah, story of my life. This is not Pacific related, but this is actually a good question. What World War II battle for the Canadians would make an interesting film, do you think?
Whew. I mean, the battle of the Atlantic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they helped to escort during the war in terms of supplies to Europe, men, everything, like something like 180 million tons. 180 million.
That's
So insane, right?
yeah.
All the battles that we were using British ships at the time initially to begin with. By the end of the war, the Canadians had the third largest navy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Their corvettes were the master sub hunters, sub
Yeah.
killers. The merchant marines, all the merchant marines that sacrificed themselves. All that kind of story about the Battle of the Atlantic, because they were losing that war for like 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So many died, and like my grandfather was not part of the D-Day invasion per se, but he was guarding the channel in
Mm-hmm.
what ship he was in. I don't know what ship he was in at the time, but looking for subs and guarding the invasion. So I'd really like to see that. I was in one Canadian. Is it that? You can see that poster back there.
Yeah.
So that's another Andrew I played. My middle name is Andrew. So
Oh,
I don't.
look at that.
When people cast stuff, it's like, Andrew.
Andrew.
That's Andrew Minarski I portrayed in a Canadian short called The 13th Mission.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mid gunner in a Lancaster bomber.
Mm-hmm.
And on their 13th mission, June 12th, 45, they were on a bombing run, bombing some German depot, and they were shot down by German. Was it Junker 88? I forget what type. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
shot, and so there's 7 guys in there. The plane is going down. The pilot, 5 guys in the front. So the pilot puts it on some sort of like cruise type thing. Andy Benarski's in the midgun, and so he gets out. Everyone's bailing out in the front, and he looks to the back. The back of the plane is on fire, and the hydraulic line to the back turret had been severed. Oil leaking out, was on fire. So the tail gunner, which is like in the suicide chair, he's stuck. And so Benarski sees, and instead of bailing out, he goes, and it's not like you can walk back there or even crouch. Like there's at the tail, you have to sort of get up on this platform and crawl back to that turret. The whole thing was on fire. He crawled back there. There was some, like maybe an axe or something like that, and because the guy was stuck, his turret wouldn't turn towards the inside of the bomber. So Mynarski's like smashing the fuck out of it, trying to get it on fire. And the guy in the tail gun, he's like, "Go!" Just finally waves him off. Mynarski just backs out, gets to the door, salutes the guy, bails out. He was found by French resistance, but his burns were so bad he died a few days later. The plane, meanwhile, continues to glide in and land on ground with this guy in the back, just like, fucking Hail Marys and everything.
Yeah.
One of the wings clips a bunch of trees. That jolted the plane, and the turret popped open to the back. He bails out, the plane keeps going, and the plane explodes.
Oh.
He was found by French resistance, made it back to England 6 months later. He's there in London. He goes into this pub, and who are there but the 5 other guys that were in that plane?
That's insane.
So he goes up and he's like, "What happened to Mynarski?" Well, he died. He didn't know. And that Mynarski got the Victoria Cross for that, posthumously, obviously. And at our the cenotaph, the War Memorial in Ottawa, downtown, there's a bunch of busts there, statues, and we call them the Valiants. So General Curry, who was head of the Canadian Corps in World War I, his bust is there. 1 or 2 other Victoria Cross winners, but Mynarski's bust is down there too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very cool. Like, you don't get the opportunity to just, like I say, to be in a big major Canadian movie about anything in the war, but that was really cool. And the last surviving Canadian Lancaster bomber is called Mynarski's Lank.
Oh.
And it will still fly on like Canada Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
What date is Canada Day?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Yeah. Mynarski's Lank.
Are there any museums that focus on Canadian history during World War II in Canada?
Yeah, in Ottawa, there's a Canadian War Museum, which is downtown. It's great museum. They even have they took I don't know if it was from the unknown. There's a tomb of the unknown soldier at the War Memorial. But his, I'm stuck. What do you call it? You're dead, and they plant you in the ground, and they stick that piece of rock.
Yeah,
They type your name on it. I sound like a complete idiot now. You know that thing?
Your tombstone?
That's it. Mom, more coffee. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
But anyways, that cenotaph is there, and so on Remembrance Day, November 11th, at 11 o'clock, if the sun is shining the way it comes through this window in the War Museum, it will light up. It will light that up for like a minute or 2 and then pass. It's really super cool. But yeah, if anyone ever gets to Ottawa, it's a fantastic movie or museum.
Are there any films or TV series about the Canadians in World War II that you would recommend? I know you recommended a movie earlier, and I'm sorry, but I honestly forgot the name of it.
The Devil's Brigade.
The Devil's Brigade. Is there any other like film series or TV or film? Oh my gosh. Movie or TV series?
Sign it.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean watching The Great Escape and realizing that the Canadians were just like the guys with the Australian or fake Canadian accents, realizing that the Canadians were a major part of that escape.
Yeah.
Because they were also very much in the Air Force, right? The Royal Air Force, the Royal Canadian Air Force. They were in the war from 39 on as well. So, but the Devil's Brigade, I mean, it's just got everything in it. Just it's William Holden, man, brilliant. The movie itself, there's humor in it, and then you're crying by the end of it, and
yeah.
And if you're a kid like me at the time, you're throwing yourself over the couch and getting hit, and getting the girl, getting the girl, the pillow at the end. Yeah. Getting the pillow at the end.
Getting the pillow at the end.
Oh my God. Is this live or is this?
Yeah, sorry, you can't. Yeah, this can't be edited. You can't take anything back. Sorry, Scott.
Damn.
Let's see. Did you get a chance to meet any of the Marines that were featured in the Pacific? Did you get to meet any vets?
R.V. Bergen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at the initial screening, Grauman's Chinese Theater, the premiere. He was there with Sid Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
Martin McCann, who portrayed R.V., introduced me to him and Sid. And they're in their dress blues, and you're just like, in the presence of gods, right? You're like, wow. Martin's, the Irish guy, he's like, RV, this Scotty, he portrayed the skipper.
Mm-hmm.
And RV just standing there, and he looks me up and down. I have to see how you measure up. I was like, and then I was able to meet up with them in Dallas and have a lunch with them and befriend him, and just an extraordinary guy. I went to his funeral back in 18.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I feel weren't a lot of the vets who were portrayed in the Pacific, hadn't they already passed by the time the Pacific came out?
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of them, I feel.
The vast.
From what I can remember.
There is someone that Garrett interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's in Florida. And he's got to be like 98 now.
Yeah.
Who fought with 3-5. I know at Cape Gloucester.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this guy, but yeah, they were all gone. I don't know why they didn't choose that first, but maybe it was a little bit easier to, do Band of Brothers at the time. But yeah. I mean, just meeting RV and talking. I asked him, what was your toughest day, and with it, he didn't miss a beat. He said crossing that airfield. Yeah. He said he just felt like forever, and
I bet.
Yeah, and guys are guys are walking, guys are just standing, and it's like you're filming this beautiful blue sky, not a cloud, it's warm and everything like that, and you're thinking, geez, these guys are just getting their asses bombed off, but
yeah, that's crazy. Have you ever visited Haldane's grave at Arlington National Cemetery?
I did. Yeah, I drove across the States in 2013 from LA to New York, and I stopped in Virginia at Arlington and found his grave, and it was just on my own, so it was quite a moment. And the thing that struck me is 2 rows behind him are all Marines, and this guy's last name was like Yamamoto. So Japanese guy who joined the Marine Corps and died fighting, and he was there like two behind Andy,
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
that's
thing.
great.
But yeah, it's just surreal being there. And of course, there were other burials going on. I mean, there's always burials going on there. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
That,
Steve Moore, his nephew, I think the last time he visited, and someone had put a rock
mm-hmm.
on his cenotaph there.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking that it was someone he may have known, that still visited.
Yeah. That's that's great. That'd be kind of surreal to, betray Haldane and then you go to his grave. That's just, yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
what a moment.
go ahead.
Um, what is your favorite memory from set?
Wow. Oh man, so many.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, cause we filmed episode. I don't know favorite, but one that just sticks out right now is that when we filmed 5 and then 7 and then 6.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 I had the most to do, and that was great to be able to do more because everyone wanted to do more. But the day that we filmed Andy being on the stretcher,
Mm-hmm.
I showed up and none of the other guys were talking to me. None of the other actors,
Yeah.
because you're
Mm-hmm.
just garnering this sort of mood of what you got to film later on. So it wasn't all like jokey or jovial or anything like that. You could just see them sort of holding back this emotion kind of thing. So I left
Mm-hmm.
our little area there. I just left for most of the day
Uh-huh.
so that I thought when they saw him being carried down, it would just have more of an impact,
Mm-hmm.
with all the background guys as well. And man, they were so good. Everyone in that, all the actors, all the background, and then I don't know. I felt so compelled. I was like sort of so taken with it that it was a very sort of narrow passageway up this hill, and so as we were filming end of the day, and so when everyone finished, I just stood there and shook everyone's hand and
Yeah.
thanked them for it, and that was a special moment. And some of these background guys like, "Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you finished shooting already?" I'm like, No, I've got more to do. Got more to do. But I'd walk around like, I mean, no one ever called you by your name.
Yeah.
Because you was captain skipper all the time. You'd be going to the can or something, some guy's saluting you like skipper, and you're like, hey, yeah, gotta go.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. But that was very cool. It was all so cool.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you ever go to, I don't
Bowden.
know, Bowdoin College where Haldane went, or where Ack Ack was born in Massachusetts?
Yeah, he was born in Lawrence. No, I haven't. I'd
You
love to.
haven't? Mm-hmm.
Bowden to this day has a Haldane Award
Oh yeah.
that they give to, you know, highest achiever or just overall best student popularity. I'd like to go for that for some time. I know Steve Moore's reached out to the college. I think he gave them a Japanese flag,
Mm-hmm.
which Andy got. I think it might have been on Palilu, and he gave to his runner.
Mm-hmm.
His runner survived, but like his runner was so devastated by Andy being killed that was his last day when Andy died. He was
Mm-hmm.
done. The guy was just a mess. But yeah, I'd love to go there and I don't know what you
Yeah.
have to sort of like be invited kind of thing, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I'd love to visit his town and that area. Maybe that's why they got a Canadian to portray him.
Yeah.
Kind of got the accent
Kind
ish.
of
You know,
ish. Yeah. I don't know.
more.
You let that a boot slip.
Yeah. That, damn.
A boot. Sorry, that was
You,
probably a really bad Canadian impersonation.
you get so used to changing it over the years as a Canadian actor because everything's American that you audition for.
Uh-huh.
My aunt would give me shit. I'd see her and she's like, "Stop saying about."
That's not how you say it. Do you find yourself slipping out of that, like out
Yeah,
of your accent like a lot?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because you sort of have to train yourself to just not think about it and do the vowel sound, right? Do the sharper American vowel sounds.
Yeah.
But I love when people impersonate Canadian. Get oot, eh? Oot in the boot.
Oot in a boot. Yeah, it's a little dramatic. Lucy, lay down.
Yeah.
Did you suck your thumb the whole time while you were, or just in boot camp?
I only sucked it when Freddie would walk by.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's Freddie. Yeah, I was in that bit, like I say, the command area. So they had a wooden platform, and they were luxury. I don't know. They had a cooler full of beer and steaks and shit. And I'm in this tent. But the first night I went in that tent, I didn't take my uniform off at all. I left the gaiters on. And you're in the rainforest in Australia, and there's shit in the something like walking around in the forest. So I had my carbine right beside me. Just like my feet facing the door of the tent. Anything came through there, I was going to smash the fuck out of it. And I didn't sleep at all. And I didn't. I think the last day we got to sleep in, and Lieutenant Stokey was, extra half hour, but I was awake and I was just sitting in there relaxed, like, oh man, we didn't have to do PT that day. So I was like, just like, yeah, I can relax. You're going on. And then I hear this, Haldane. For whatever reason, I went, yo, hello, yo. And then I hear this, and then Stokey's like, don't you fucking yo me, get the fuck out of that rack right now, goddammit. I was like, serious? And I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Yeah, I'll be right there, darling. Put the tea on. You know, that kind of shit. I did the same thing, actually, well, similar, but when I met Dale Dodd, he came, they were filming, he was on set most of the time, but he came to the boot camp, and I met him and had a chat, and he was like, all right, Skipper, and, he's giving me all, I don't know if you can call it, no, Lieutenant, he was calling me Lieutenant. Because your rank is lower, like I said, in boot camp, and then when you graduate, they pin the Eagle Globe and Anchor on you, and you salute. Like Freddie, I think he pinned the Eagle Globe and Anchor on me, and I teared up because he called me Captain Haldane.
Aww.
So it was like Dick Licker, and then Captain Haldane. Like,
such a dramatic change.
Thanks, Gunny. But when I met Dale, and he shakes my hand at the end, and he's like, all right, Lieutenant, see you on set. And just for whatever reason, I don't know what was going through my head, I'm like, it's Captain, sir. And like it's come the words, I could see the words coming out.
And you're like, no, come back.
Yeah. Just fuck and get the fuck back. Shit. And he's still got my hand, and he squeezes it even harder. Pulls me in close to him, and he goes, not till I say you are, god damn it.
Ooh.
Walked away. Yeah.
Like me and my big mouth.
I know. They only gave us one pair of trousers too, so.
Oh, how did you go through it?
It might have been soiled from the first day, when Freddie told me to go back to my bitch tent. Then soiled it there. The yo thing was. Yeah,
the yo thing. That is so yo.
Oh yeah.
That is so great.
Yes, Mike. What can I do for you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
What was I thinking?
Let's see. We'll do a couple more questions and then wrap this up. If you weren't cast as Haldane on the Pacific, who would you have wanted to be casted as, or were you specifically brought in for Andy, or like did you audition for other roles?
No, I had actually dug up the audition material I got from, it was 2007. I had auditioned for band, but I put myself on tape for band, which was a VHS tape. That's how long ago it was. Got the book, Band of Brothers, everyone and his mother, every young hooping actor in the US and Canada. I was in LA at the time, I think, and I'd done this miniseries, Nuremberg. I played Tex Wheelis, who was Goring's guard during the Nuremberg trials.
The Alec Baldwin?
Yeah. Yeah, and Brian Cox plays Goring, and
I love Brian Cox.
Yeah,
He played a good Goring in that. I thought he was just a freaking little malicious
Yeah,
asshole.
and he got nominated for Golden Globe.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted your story. Go ahead.
I was trying to get the tape from that. The director was going to give me the tape, some scenes that I'd be able to, because I had a manager who knew Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
Manager says, yeah, if you can get me that, I'll send it to him. I'm like, great, I'm in uniform, blah, blah, send that. But actually Baldwin, who had final edit for that, wasn't allowing, like it wasn't released. So the director had done his edit. Okay, we're going to go forward, do all the finishing post. But Baldwin just kept, basically the director goes, Baldwin keeps sticking his dick in the middle of this thing and it's fucking pissing me off. Anyway, so I couldn't get that tape.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, shit. So I put myself on tape, I think for Winters. Cut to 10 years later, I get the audition for the Pacific. And it was Andy. And I wasn't going to do it.
Really? Why not?
Because I looked at it and said, this is Spielberg, Hanks, HBO. Yeah, fuck, like I'm going to get this. Like, fuck. And I really was, it was at night, and I was like, I'm just going to call my agent in the morning. Like, why am I auditioning for this? Like, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened, I don't know, over the night. I'm like, don't do that. Just go in, do your best job. So I did. I went, put the audition down with casting in Toronto and just forgot about it. And then months later, hey, they flagged your Meg Lieberman, casting director at CBS. Her and Cammie Patton cast Band of Brothers and the Pacific, wonderful ladies. And Meg saw my tape and flagged it, just like this guy. Then Tony Toe, one of the producers, they were trying to get actually Joshua Jackson.
Really?
Yeah. So he came in to read for Haldane way in the beginning. So he was sort of flagged for it. I met, they're still auditioning people, but all along, it's like, okay, they're thinking they're going to go with him. And then his manager phone said, we got to pull him from this project, or, like if you're thinking of him for it, because this movie he signed up for is going to be greenlit. And she is not a Joshua Jackson fan.
No, she's not. Sorry.
Anyway, so he had to turn it down. And then Tony told me this afterwards, and he basically hung up the phone, called Meg and said, that guy in Canada that you flagged, get him in here. So I had to fly to the States, fly to LA within a week, go in, had an interview with Tony and Meg, and then wanted me to do the scenes right there in his room. And I shit in my pants. I was like, man, I don't want to blow this, but all right, I'll do it. I did the audition. As I'm staring at his Golden Globe from, Band of Brothers is on his shelf. Like, he's sitting on the couch and there's the fucking statue, the green-eyed monster going, this is what you could have, or you go back to Canada and you're a has-been actor. So I did it, and then he's like, great, thank you very much. I leave, popped his head out the door, and he's like, Scott, hang on a minute. Closes the door. I just sort of nervously flirt with his assistant, and like,
well, what else are you gonna do?
What else are you gonna do? Right? Like, okay, I'll flirt with you, because I'm like, what does this mean? What do they want me to do it again? Or I was just killing my nerves, right? Because I thought they'd get me to do it again. Then he opens up the door and he's got a stack of manila envelopes, and he hands them to me, and he says, here's some reading for the flight home. I think you'll need these. And it was all 10 scripts of the Pacific. And that I had that reaction. I was like, and he's like, he goes, well, we can't confirm just. And then of course Meg's standing at the door, and she's like, Tony, I told you not to do it that way. We got to go through a proper channel. That's a really bad Meg Lieberman imitation. Anyway, yeah. So that's how I got it, and it was Haldane. And yeah, I couldn't. The casting for both of those shows was so brilliant.
Yeah.
For each and every man, Jack, that was in it, like it was man, woman. I mean, all the people that you see in it are such great actors. I mean, it's just such an honor to be a part of that. Then thinking like, what am I doing here, kind of thing. Like, how did I end up with all these people? Tony did tell me afterwards that he he said, your audition was just heads above everyone. Like
Yeah.
you were just so right for it. Because I said to him, I go, what if I didn't go for the callback to meet you?
Mm-hmm.
Would you have hired me? Because I was scared to go and lose it in the room.
Yeah.
Go to the room and then just suck. And then they go, fuck. Like, that wasn't what he was like on tape or anything,
Yeah.
right?
Who is
And then
this
he goes, no, I still hired you.
guy? Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, but he did say, and he told me about Joshua. He specifically told me that story, and then he said, and thank God he did that other project, or he didn't end up doing it because it was the remake of the movie Fletch that Chevy Chase did years ago.
Yeah.
It didn't end up getting done, but he goes, yeah, lucky for us because you were just absolutely the right guy. So
That would have been super weird to see Joshua Jackson in that role. It was just that he just doesn't fit that niche or whatever, or not niche, but just
he doesn't have the jaw.
he doesn't have the jaw. But there are certain people that just shouldn't be casted, cast in war movies, and like one of them is like my number one, Nick Cage. They need to stop freaking casting him in war movies. I don't know why they keep doing it, but he's just like, no, stop it. Joshua Jackson. Joshua Jackson would be one of those that you're like, no, don't.
But here's the thing about the look they were going for is I worked with Josh, a movie called The Skulls.
Oh.
Yeah, and he, when I showed up on set and afterwards talking to him, he goes, "Man, you look identical to my half brother."
Oh, really?
He goes, "I have a half brother. When you walked on set, I thought you were him." Kind of thing. He's like, that's how much you guys look alike. So it's just something in the look or something like that. But
yeah,
they definitely got the better actor for sure. I mean, for the role.
For the role, of course.
Yeah. Josh is good. He's a really good actor.
Yeah. All right, hold on.
Oh no.
Yeah, you motherfucker.
Dude. You fucking follow me everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, I got to keep the commies in check.
You French commies, remember that guy, that French backpacker?
Frenchie.
No, the guy, you might have called him Frenchie. He was like,
yeah.
Remember he fucked up? He's like fired after he was told not to, and then he wouldn't cop to it, and you ran up to him. He's like, you pinko commie, surrender monkey, fucking. Oh man, you went off on him.
Yeah, well, that's what I do.
The UN has not hired you yet, have they?
Well, yeah, they have, but it's not to be the nice guy.
No, you're not on the negotiations for anything. It's like
exactly.
What are you doing there, boss?
Just playing with the horses, fixing to move them around. Got babies coming.
Baby horses?
Yeah, I just had one the other day. Fixing to have a couple more.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you sell them?
Yeah, that's what you do. Either sell them or eat them. One of the two. What the heck?
Oh, God. Freddie Joe.
This is my little Padawan.
What's her name?
His name, Padawan.
Well, how do I know? I don't know. Male, female?
Yeah. Trust me, I've known that about you a long time.
Oh! Well, you know what they say. When in boot camp.
Yeah. Hey, man. As long as your eyes are closed, it doesn't count.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, your whole show just went south there, Sarah.
I know. Jeez,
that's what happens when you let these these sergeants on here that just think they're bigger than they are. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Scott,
nice hat, by the way.
Yeah.
You need to order more.
I know. I'm gonna have to kick Garcia in the nuts.
Get on it.
Exactly.
What were you gonna ask, sir?
I said, Scott, you were telling us earlier about how much boot camp was not that great. Is that right?
It wasn't tough. It wasn't tough enough for me.
It wasn't tough enough? Yeah.
I'm gonna thrash the shit out of you when I see you.
I had to, you know, when I met Freddie and looked down on him, I said, "Who's this wee lad that's going to be training us here? Who's this little guy?"
Don't lie to the audience. You were crying like a little bitch. No, don't yell at me, Danny. Danny, don't yell no more.
Who's this wee lad think he is? Well, I'll let him. You know.
I'm from Canada. We're nice.
Intimidated by my height, and you know, it's okay.
You're a
I understand.
What are you, whopping 6'1"?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so tall.
What are you, 5'8", 5'7" and a bit?
Well, you're lucky that I know Sarah's mom's on here. I would say something.
Oh my God.
Why does that ever stop you?
Oh yeah, I'm a whopping 5'9 1/4.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Oh, this is so entertaining.
Yeah.
You know what? I've praised him so much in so many of the other podcasts talking about the Pacific, but it's just true. Like they, you know, without that training, without these guys doing that for us, it just never would have been the same at all. So they absolutely deserve a lot of credit. As much as it pains me to say how much credit Freddie deserves, but he's a big part of that for sure.
All I can say is what I tell my daughter, and all I tell her is all I did was open the door. You're the one that kicked it in, so give yourself all the credit for that.
I will.
You should.
I shall.
Yeah.
I was going to mention this other book just before, if you take it. 6 Warriors. So it's all stories that people, like, it's not a historian who wrote it. He basically just went around the country in Canada and gaining all these stories about Canadians in the Second World War, Canadians that served, Canadians that didn't, men, women. Like, a woman talks about her husband being away, and you know, she meets this guy at some camp in the summer, and they have an affair. And of course, the husband, when he comes back, sort of questions her about it, but all she says is, "Well, what did you do when you were on leave?" That was the end of the conversation. Another story about a unit. There's this guy, I don't know if it's a squad or maybe a squad, but basically their lieutenant was just such a complete fuck up that he was going to get them killed, and they nearly got killed a couple times. And finally, one of the guys shot him with his revolver. He just shot the lieutenant. All the other guys took out their revolvers and put a bullet in them as well.
What?
Just so you wouldn't know
who killed him.
Yeah, and that kind of thing happened. But that kind of thing, you don't read about it, but it happened a lot. It happened a lot.
Wow.
I mean, not huge, but anyway, there's all kinds of anecdotes in there, and obviously the feeling at the end of it, the writer talks about this, but for the people that obviously weren't killed and injured, the predominant feeling was that it was the most exciting time of their life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Hard to believe.
That is, but I mean, it is what it is.
But a great book. Freddie, do you read?
Yeah, it's written in crayon.
I can't help myself when you get on here.
Yep.
Just crayon. He gets a little confused if colored pencils or markers come into play. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they call that, Scott, is called "I'm a fucking man, dude." I'm not a bitch boy like you. Get off my ass, dude. Sorry.
Just measuring up there. He's always got him,
Yeah.
I gotta move over here so my horse stops fighting.
I'll let him get away with it. It makes him feel better about himself. Makes him feel just a little bit taller.
Yeah. There's always room for you small actors,
I'm so glad I'm in Canada.
Yeah, you're just like background performers. You're needed in the script anyway.
Oh my God.
You guys are
It's
burning left and right.
that's because Scott's
Hey,
my
that-
brother. I tell you what,
Mhm.
Scott has become one of my closest friends in the world, and
Mhm.
he's a good dude, man. He's a good dude.
Back
He
at you, buddy.
he definitely gave honor to the Marines, and I appreciate everything he did. You know,
Thank you, sir.
coming from a communist country, it's a lot to say. You know.
Well, just imagine if I ended up in Luke Sparks' project there, Weapons of
Oh
Choice.
yeah, man. I hope so.
Luke Spark, he was part of the webbing team for the Pacific. He's become I don't know, well-known Australian director now, I would say.
Yep. He's
Up
very
and comer.
accomplished now.
He's got a bunch of projects. One of them's Weapons of Choice, based on a book. I forget the name of that book. But it's modern times, and I don't know, where is it? Somewhere in Indonesia. Basically, it flips to the Second World War.
Mhm.
But they go through this time warp sort of thing. Guys from the present back to World War II.
Yeah,
Anyway,
they end up the day before Midway.
day before Midway.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Pretty
he mentioned to me that he was like, I'd really love to get you in this, and I'd love to go back to Australia. I'll work on craft service. I'll do webbing.
Craft services.
Yeah,
But I asked
especially where he's going to film it. That's like one of the. I mean, Port Douglas is pretty nice, but
Gold Coast.
yeah, Gold Coast and Brisbane and Main Beach, Surfers Paradise is like my favorite part of Australia. It's amazing.
And I asked him.
We'll have to get
some
Sarah to come out if we're on it. We could do a live show on the
Mm.
beach.
Okay.
As long as you're wearing all your clothing.
Me? Dude, I never wear clothes.
Definitely.
Hey,
I'd asked Luke.
if you were endowed like me, you wouldn't wear clothes either, Scott.
Oh, jeez. You're hanging around those horses too much, buddy.
Hey, heck yeah. It goes on you.
But I specifically asked Luke in the messaging, it was like 6 months ago or something. I said, would I have to do boot camp? And he's like, no, just the Navy guys. So I don't know what role he had in mind, but
what he should have said is, that's up to Freddie Joe.
oh, I will be
Almighty Freddie Joe.
I will be an observer.
Well, you do get breaks.
my boot camp.
You do get. After James Badgedell, when we were doing World War Z, he was like literally shitting himself because they said, no, you have to go through training with Freddie Joe, and he was like, not again. But all I did is use him like basically as one of my cadre. So
Yeah.
he loved it because then he got to tell everybody what to do. He was like, this is awesome. I feel your power.
Yeah. Listen, I had my boot, man. I can't soil that memory with the new one, right?
Yeah. Well, no. The only thing is you'll have to do especially if you play one of the modern day Marines or squid or I'm sorry, sailors. You just have to train, in the modern day stuff.
But I'd be like a colonel now or general or something, right?
Oh, yeah. More like an old senator.
Oh, this is good for my ego there.
You should play. You should ask to play one of the mad scientists that make them go back in time.
Yeah, I'd like.
There you
listen,
go. You got to think about reoccurring. You got to keep going to try to, because the whole series bounces from place to place, so you'll have to be there the whole time.
It's got to be reoccurring.
That's right. Like I told you one time when you tried to put a rubber pistol in a shot. I'll make you famous.
That wasn't me, man. That was wardrobe.
Yeah, you were like, this thing's so light. Look at me, I can run all day.
This rubber thing. What do I do?
That's exactly what he sounded like too. This is so
Freddie
amazing.
Joe.
Oh.
Freddie.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm a thespian.
Can you help me? Look like a.
Sarah, get your hands off your.
What would I have done without him, Sarah? I tell you.
Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your
don't
interview. I'm gonna let you go.
Mm-hmm.
What I have been able to watch has been amazing. You guys are both awesome on this stuff. You should do it more often, Scott.
Yeah, you liar. Mm-hmm.
He's right. He's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
This is the comic relief at the end, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. The perfect way to wrap
And it's like
everything up.
it's like what. Yeah, it's like what Banana told me when I did my show with Sarah. He goes, "Yeah, you guys were good. You got good charisma, and she's not hard on the eyes either. It's easy to watch."
Who's Banana?
Tony Lidger.
Oh, Tony, right. Yeah. Okay.
Banana, that's from back when rodeo days. So another man thing you've never done.
So now that we've had the clown come on at the end of the circus.
Yeah. I've done some bullfighting too, dude. That's good stuff.
Oh, you throw a lot of bull. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you ain't bullshitting. All right. How do I get off this, sir? Can you kick me off, or do I kick myself off?
No, kick yourself out. There's a little X button in the corner, on the top right-hand corner of your screen. You can do it. I believe in you, Freddie Joe.
All right, bye.
Cheers, brother.
There we go. Sorry, I had to.
No. He's like, if I do one of these without him, it just wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be the same, would it?
It would no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel that bit of pain that sort of, you know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't feel like dick liquor at the boot camp.
You would have exactly. Did you just have a flood of memories come back?
Well, that's actually the first time I saw him. It was a day or two before boot camp, and he was a pretty fit dude back then. And he was going for a jog, and I was walking back to the hotel. I was in town, you know, having my lunch and a few beers, and like la-di-da, you know, I'm going back, and he's jogging on the path. I had no idea who he was. He knew who I was. He knew about the boot camp, knew all the actors. He had pictures of everybody, and he's jogging by, and he had the sunglasses on, and he just he looks at me, and he just smirks. He's like, and in my head, and you know, he had the haircut going, like buzzed down and everything, and I look back and I'm like, who the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Like what's your deal, buddy? You know, I'm just like cruising along here, and anyways, and then the next the next day I found out who he was.
Yeah. Wow. Surprise. Oh, okay. Oh my God.
Perfect.
We have been talking forever.
Yes.
Like, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up so everybody can we can get on our Saturdays going. So
anybody still watching?
Yeah. Scott, thanks so much for coming on and talking about the Pacific and Canadian military history and all that fun stuff.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So
Absolutely. No, it's a great opportunity to talk, like I say, all about that, and you know, my grandfather and Canadians, and you know, don't get the opportunity, and you know, you side with us Canadians, you know.
I do. Yes.
It's in your blood.
It is in my blood. Yes.
It's in your blood.
It is very much so. So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for coming on, and thanks for submitting your questions. And again, Scott, thank you for joining us on History Behind the Page. And you have a fantastic day.
You too, Sarah. Thanks very much.
Right. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.